We've gathered a team of leaders from Australia's property building and design community at Knoll in Adelaide to count down the top 10 architectural statements for the year in the festival state. It is always about the connection to that massive sky in South Australia and the landscape. But here we have something different. We've got a maturing city, we've got a maturing state, we've got a more urban quality, we've got smaller and perfectly formed projects which aren't necessarily the biggest, but they may be among the best we've seen. Aidan Mawhinney from Living Edge admired an eclectic number 10.
Isn't this project fun? This is an amalgamation of everything and anything. And it's really put together in quite a quirky, interesting, fun way. And it shows how architecture doesn't have to be restrained.
Now, you might think we're at the wrong house here, but you are in for a surprise.
I have collected building materials for a good 15 years now. I've just found it here, there and everywhere, whether it's online or on the side of the road, hard rubbish, whatever it might be. Anything that looked like it still had a bit of integrity to it.
So tell me some of the stories about these amazing pieces.
Well, the pizza oven was initially outside. This used to be an outside courtyard, but the bricks were pulled out of the building when I actually demolished part of the internal walls. The pizza-making bench was a series of happy finds. The bits of marble came out of a bathroom job we were demolishing at the time. The bench top itself is all the offcuts from the deck that we built in the backyard. When they went from timber to plastic at the local bowling alley, I managed to score 3 lanes. It's Canadian maple, really hard-wearing timber, fabulous as a working surface. What so often gets lost in these kinds of extensions is that the middle of the house turns into a dark and unloved area. So really what I've tried to do here was get as much light from above as possible. That little idiosyncratic moments where I fell through the ceiling while I was doing the demolition.
Bathrooms are always a fun part of the house.
Yeah, it was really important to make a really small little bathroom which was hard-wearing and fun to be in. And I've always wanted a shower which would be partly indoor, partly outdoor, so I made the whole wall open up into the garden like that.
Full of fresh air and full of surprises.
Michael Canturi of Vitroxa Australia loved the way number 9 embraced its environment.
What I love is the way that the house just sort of sits up on legs. So it's really, you know, it's really respectful towards its environment. You know, you could pick it up, you know, in 100 years' time, and it just would be untouched.
This is a house that's grounded but manages to float at the same time.
It was definitely a challenging site, but had a lot of meaning for us and for our client in particular, who grew up on this hillside. This end of the house is very much dug in, but up the other end it projects out to a tree house and beyond. The simple form was about really reinforcing a strong architectural idea of projecting off the hillside. Beyond that, it was also recognition that to engineer something sticking off a hillside costs. By keeping the form simple, we're able to shift budget to other priorities, such as the quality of internal space, quality of finishes, things the client would value much more in their day-to-day lives here.
Oh, Adam, this is a fantastic view.
It's the big, broad horizon, it's the city lights, and there's the Gulf and the sunsets. This is what it's all about.
What I love about this project is that it started with a site that has real memories for the owner, and the architect has carefully added another layer to continue its story for another generation.
The Wilderness Retreat at number 8 impressed Tanya Rive of Halliday and Bailey.
Really, really beautiful the way that it sits inside its surroundings. The interiors are nice and light, the floors are nice and dark. It's just very simplistic, but done really, really well.
Wow, this is gorgeous.
Yeah, this is what it's all about, bringing the outside in, having that amazing view, and then these massive doors that slide all the way open.
And there's no balcony.
No balcony. Clare is one of those climates where it can be too hot in summer, too cold in winter. So the decision was made to have the balcony internal.
There's a real calm quality in all the rooms of this house.
Yeah, we've tried to keep the material palette and colours inside to a minimum like we've done on the outside. So everything is either white or natural finish, and there is an intense amount of energy gone into making it perfectly symmetrical. So this bedroom and bathroom are mirrored at the other end.
So So did you have an idea of what sort of home you wanted here?
We were inspired by a house we saw nearly 20 years ago now by Collins and Turner. I like things that are square and straight and simple, and it's all about the view and appreciating its location.
Part of my heritage background comes out with this sort of stuff. We love the double smelted galv. This is, generically termed heritage galv. And Jack and Anne are a fan of that, but really the materials come back to a almost zero maintenance house for them.
This design demonstrates the power of restraint. In deferring to its setting, it's resulted in a beautifully calm place to soak up the landscape.
We've gathered at Walter Knoll in Adelaide to count down the top 10 architectural statements for the year in South Australia. Leading the judging are Ken Slattery of Cement, Concrete and Aggregates Australia and Blake Tasker of Lysart.
I think the group of judges we've got here today presents a real fair and unique way to judge architecture rather than just having architects judging architecture.
The group comes from a whole range of disciplines and a whole range of interests, and it's really interesting to see how they interact as we go through the judging process.
Cementel's Kim Rowan rated number 7 a new high in community-minded design.
It is the start of what is going to be a new area, and I think it sets a really high standard for future buildings that come into that space.
With the demise of manufacturing industries, local councils working with architects can be at the forefront of rebuilding communities. This project is a great example. David, I love this staircase in the centre of the building, drawing you up.
Yeah, it's all about connecting people together inside the building and making it obvious where to go, but it's also right on the edge of the building and visible from the street, and we thought that was important just to draw community in. It started off as a partnership between state, local and federal governments, all trying to grapple with the idea of Holden closing and how they'd go and recreate the new economy. We wanted to make it a place that would get people to come out of their homes and come to work to actually collaborate, integrate, share ideas, do all those sorts of things that are actually about, just connecting people together. The idea is that you can become a member of the space, you can book the rooms, you can book the offices and come in on a casual basis, on an as-needs basis, which is really important for small businesses.
I love the fact that downstairs you can take your kids to the library and have a reading group, but upstairs you can work and you've got these wonderful community spaces.
There's a really big backstory around using local materials and local suppliers as well, because that's part of the idea of, economic transformation, keeping things local.
The precast concrete around the building actually looks like a wonderful curtain.
We're quite conscious as architects where the money that we are spending goes, if you like. So the fact that we chose precast meant that taxpayers' dollars stayed in South Australia rather than if we used glass, for example, it going to China.
When good architecture is at the heart of a project, sure, it can offer functional spaces, but great architecture can actually inspire a community.
The whole thing is about interaction here, where people walking to the beach can stop in and have a chat or a coffee, and the house really is quite welcoming to the outside.
More and more, we're seeing a new take on the quintessential Aussie beach house.
Our clients came to us in our first discussions. They really wanted us to design a beach shed for them. We interpreted that as a very simple shape, little shed-like. It's very simple, it's cost-effective. This space is actually, in a traditional sense, would be in the backyard of the house. In this house, we've inverted it and put it right at the front. So they can sit out on their deck and they can talk to their neighbours as they come past as they're going down to the beach. We've also seen many little test matches out the front on the lawn as well, with the whole community joining in. Along the length of the house, we've carved out these courtyard spaces. It becomes almost a room, and it's flexible enough that we've got these sliding screens along the western side. Protects from the sunlight, so you can shift them into positions that gives you shade, but it also allows you to filter out views so it's more private space as well. So as we come down the length of the house, these courtyards give separation between different areas of the house.
And it's not just the courtyards that are carved out of the form, but these little window seats are too.
Yes, these little areas are almost like micro living spaces.
And there's a sense that it's becoming more private and intimate as well.
Yes, I think that was very important to this family, that the kids had their own area, and as you go down towards the back of the house, it becomes quieter and it becomes pretty much a parent's retreat. It was important to be able to bring a level of flexibility to the way we separated the more public and private areas with the use of screens, of blinds. We've got cavity sliding doors in the corridor that can actually partition the corridor off into separate spaces in its own.
It's refreshing to find a home that invites the community in, but also provides a sanctuary for its family.
The thing that I like about this project is the melding of the two cultures, Vietnamese and Australian. So some of the elements that have been used, such as, you know, the leather strapping around some of the shelving, just that attention to detail, I think, has created a really lovely outcome.
So when I say Vietnamese restaurant, this is what you're thinking. But next door, they've got other ideas. So Ben, this is your place.
Yes, it is. It's my family's restaurant. My mum and dad introduced Vietnamese cuisine to South Australia 34 years ago. I did my Bachelor's of Design Studies, and then from there I moved on to my Master's of Design. My mum and dad asked me to come back and to manage the restaurant.
It's quite important for this space to have a lot of texture. The idea is to get split-face top and got granite bar, tiles and walls, and also with a nice contrast the materials. We've got some woven grass wallpaper. The idea is that we needed an approval process about understanding Feng Shui and how that worked through. So our plans basically got Ben's family blessing. It's about positioning of the front door and the back door more so, and then the rest of the space we were pretty much on par. It was just having that understanding of energy in and out. These wall lamps are quite important to have a local made detail within the space, so they're local South Australian clay.
Oh, sorry, I can't stop touching them. They're so tactile.
No, it's beautiful.
It really is.
In Vietnamese tradition, it's good to have a bit of gold around the place, so also with the brass it patinas over time, and that details carries through with the tables. This is real eggshell. It's very time consuming. It takes about 4 of us, about 4 to 5 hours to do roughly 400 by 400. Everyone has a different style and technique that it makes it quite unique, so it has a quite
So
quality.
the person that did this bit was very neat.
Yeah.
Was that you?
Yeah, this one, no, I'm more the messy type over there.
This project demonstrates that with thoughtful design, clever detailing and beautiful material choices, family-run restaurants can have a contemporary look while still respecting their heritage.
We're counting down the top 10 architectural statements in South Australia for the year.
South Australian architecture really is alive and well. An extraordinary mix of projects, an extraordinary mix of styles, really demonstrating a confidence in architecture that South Australians can be very proud of.
I think the projects here in South Australia absolutely punch above their weight in terms of, in comparison to the rest of the country. I think that's true for many things in South Australia, but I think we've absolutely seen that here today with the projects that we've judged.
This was dear to my heart, this one. I think this is so, so clever, sandwiched between two large, tall concrete buildings. It looks like a little gingerbread house.
In a way, being small actually works really well because it's a bar, it's about mingling, it's about bumping into people, and yeah, it does it really well.
Wedged between its neighbours, this tiny mountain hut has a big surprise. Wow, this is a great space.
Quite a change from what was here before. Because it's got a small footprint, we wanted to make it feel really open by having a really high ceiling.
And the textural qualities, it's really lovely.
Yeah, all the timber's seconds, so stuff people have rejected for the black streaking, but we kind of like it because it's added a lot of texture and aged the space before it even opened.
And the concrete.
All custom bench tops, and again, they age really well and add to that sort of homely feeling of the place being worn in.
And there's daylight.
Yeah, so that was one of our big design moves, was to create 2 separate huts with a courtyard in between that would provide light to both of them and help make the whole space feel like a real escape from the street, a respite for the weary traveller.
And there must be a really different vibe here at night.
The space is lit by the huts at night, so it's dark and moody and warm.
And there's another space in here?
Yeah, this is the dining hut, which is intimate and romantic, contrasting the light and bright, airy and breezy drinker's hut at the front.
And there's a smell of a campfire.
That's the wood oven stove, which is kind of the focus of the space. We want people to centre around and have that moment of warmth.
It's rare in the chaos of the city to find a place like this where you can disappear to another world. Cheers.
The Ivy apartment building is a great example of using architecture to redefine and redevelop an area in Adelaide that really has been underdeveloped.
I think this sort of apartment style living is something which will grow more and more in Adelaide over the next few years, and I think this is an excellent example to use as a base as that rolls out across the city.
Many multi-res developments claim to be the exemplar for family living. So I'm interested to see how this architect has translated the traditional family home into family apartment living.
This is the first stage of the redevelopment of Football Park into this great new neighbourhood for about 1,300 new homes, and Ivy is the first apartment building in that development. We wanted to really draw on that coastal lifestyle of West Lakes and create something that was familiar and draw on the materials and qualities like the big verandas and warm natural materials.
South Australia is renowned for its energy, advanced energy policies. I'm interested to know, how have you engaged with sustainability in this apartment complex?
Yeah, look, it includes things like solar power and active shading systems with the screens and so on, but it's also about the social sustainability, providing a place for all sorts of people to come and live together in a way that they might not have done so before. It was about creating this sense of space, having generous bedrooms, great storage, a proper laundry, sense of natural light, and really great kitchens.
This is amazing. It's so spacious. I love the fact that the timber runs straight out from inside to outside. It's seamless and there's no step down.
Yeah, it's about really kind of doubling the living area, and we think that every apartment should be able to have a great dinner party.
This complex demonstrates that apartment living can be beautiful and sustainable, considered, and most importantly, homely.
We're down to number 2 in our South Australia architectural countdown.
I love the Darling building, and I love particularly the way that the architects have transformed what was a disused structure into something that's really positive for the people of Adelaide.
I think the project would have had many challenges in the design phase to ensure that it was both sympathetic to the original design, but also ensured it was functional and usable into the future.
In how many towns, on how many streets, do how many of our old buildings lie vacant, waiting for a new life like this? What a gorgeous lobby. I feel like I'm in Mayfair.
Well, it wasn't always like this, Tim. When we found it, it was been derelict for 20 years, full of pigeon poo and graffiti. But rather than a redevelopment, we've had to look at the whole thing as a renovation. So fire and safety is paramount, so we've had to put a really impressive sort of fire system into this place.
So by putting the sprinklers in, you haven't needed to provide a separate fire stair. You can use this one.
And what we've been able to do then is show a bit of the history, a bit of the wear that's happened in here before, but also enable us to sort of take these areas and make them really sing. So welcome to the studio, Tim.
And I can see you've picked your battles again. Highly refined finish here. But David, I'm a bit worried the plaster is yet to come back and finish off.
Well, it's part of the story of the building, Tim. This is the old strong room. It's also one of the first reinforced concrete buildings in Adelaide.
So again, what you're doing is you're leaving in place whatever you can.
Our biggest issue from an infrastructure point of view is power. There's just simply not enough power coming into the building to operate everything. So we had to look at batteries. When we have too much demand for power, the batteries will kick in and supply that power. Everyone shares everything in the building. The whole idea is it's a community. Whether it's the shared rooftop, whether it's the way the systems work, whether it's the whole feel of the building, everybody who's in here has got buy-in into it.
Here's what's different. The architect and the interior designer are also the developer and the building owner. That means they can make design decisions that go far beyond skin deep. And now, the number 1 architectural statement for the year in South Australia.
From the streetscape, it looks like any other classic Adelaide stone-fronted cottage, but through the readaptation of the building, it reveals a fabulous redevelopment.
It's on a small block, it's got a fantastic outdoor entertaining area and a great pool, so it's the ultimate family home.
The double-fronted stone cottage is an Adelaide icon. This next project lifts the roof on new ways to bring them up to date.
This is your typical Adelaide suburban symmetrical cottage. very sought after housing type. The problem being is that they're typically dark.
Wow, this one's not.
Yeah, well, the client, they spend a lot of time working and socialising at home. So we've tried to create a space that you want to be in during the day.
So that is a massive 4 metre wide void. That's where the light's coming from.
Yeah, there's a whole nother level up there for Simon and Emma's retreat. We call it the cat ears.
Cat ears?
Yeah, let me show you. You can see here, this is the existing roof form carried through. This is what provides us with the height and the width that we need to occupy this roof space. We get the light, we get the opportunity for a bathroom through there, and then access to their favourite space in the house. It's a beautiful little secluded spot for a gin and tonic at Golden Ale.
What a lovely pool deck.
It's more than just an outdoor space though. This upper story volume provides a protected space for the patio, as well as connecting the internal and outdoor spaces. We've actually raised the pool to avoid that ugly pool fence that you so often see. And it creates a beautiful little relationship between people standing in the patio and people swimming up to that edge with a drink.
This house is surprisingly compact, but it uses sunlight and clever connections to the outside to create a much bigger sense of size and scale. Next episode on Australia by Design, we judge the 10 best architectural projects from the series to find the best of the best for the year across Australia.